Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path.
Good morning. Welcome back to our chronological Bible reading. I'm Ray Reynolds from the Summerdale Church of Christ. Today we find ourselves in 2 Samuel chapter 18. So if you will, go ahead and open up there, and we'll dig into our study of the Word of God. The Bible says, "And David numbered the people who were with him, and set captains over thousands and captains of hundreds over them. Then David sent out 1/3 of the people under the hand of Joab, 1/3 under the hand of Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and 1/3 under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said to the people, I also will surely go out with you myself. But the people answered, You shall not go out, for if we flee away, they will not care about us, nor if half of us die, will they care about us. But you are worth more than 10,000 of us now, for you are now more help to us in this city. And the king said to them, Whatever seems best to you, I will do. So the king stood beside the gate, and all the people went out by hundreds, by thousands. Now the king had commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, saying, Deal gently for my sake with this young man Absalom. And all the people heard when the king gave all the captains' orders concerning Absalom. So the people went out into the field of battle against Israel, and the battle was in the woods of Ephraim. The people of Israel were overthrown and there before the servants of David, and a great slaughter of 20,000 took place there that day. For the battle there was scattered over the face of the whole countryside, and the woods devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. Then Absalom met the servants of David. Absalom rode on a mule. Then the mule went under the thick boughs of the great terebinth tree, and his head got caught in the terebinth. So he was left hanging between heaven and earth. And the mule which was under him went on. Now a certain man saw it and told Joab and said, I saw Absalom hanging in a terebinth tree. So Joab said to the man who told him, You just saw him? And why did you not strike him there to the ground? I would have given you 10 shekels of silver and a belt. But the man said to Joab, Though I were to receive 1,000 shekels of silver in my hand, I would not raise my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Beware lest anyone touch the young man Absalom. Otherwise I would have dealt falsely against my own life. But there's nothing hidden from the king, and you yourself would have set yourself against me. Then Joab said, I cannot linger with you. And he took 3 spears in his hand and thrust them through Absalom's heart, while he was still alive in the midst of the terebinth tree. And the young men who bore Joab's armor surrounded Absalom and struck and killed him. So Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing Israel, for Joab held back the people. And they took Absalom and cast him into a large pit in the woods, and laid a very large heap of stones over him. Then all Israel fled, everyone to his tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and set up pillar for himself, which is in the king's valley, for he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. He called the pillar after his own name, and to this day it's called Absalom's monument. Then Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, said, Let us run now and take the news to the king, how the Lord has avenged him of his enemies. And Joab said to him, You shall not take the news this day, for you shall take the news another day. But today you shall take no news, because the king's son is dead. Then Joab said to the Cushite, Go tell the king what you have seen. So the Cushite bowed himself to Joab and ran. And Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said again to Joab, But whatever happens, please let me run after the Cushite. So Joab said, Why will you run, my son, since you have no news yet ready? But what happens, he said, Let me run. So he said to him, Run. And then Ahimaaz ran by way of the plain and outran the Cushite. David was sitting between 2 gates, and the watchman went up the roof over the gate to the wall, lifted his eyes, and looked, and there was a man running alone. Then the watchman cried out and told the king, and the king said, If he is alone, there is news in his mouth. And he came rapidly and drew near. Then the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called to the gatekeeper and said, There is another man running alone. And the king said, He also brings news. So the watchman said, I think the running of the first is like the running of Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok. And the king said, He's a good man. He comes with good news. So Ahimaaz called out and said to the king, All is well. And then he bowed down with his face to the earth before the king and said, Blessed be the Lord your God, who has delivered you up from men who raised their hand against my lord the king. The king said, "Is the young man Absalom safe?" Ahimaaz answered, "When Joab sent the king's servant and me, your servant, I saw a great tumult, but I did not know what it was about." And the king said, "Turn aside and stand here." And he turned aside and stood still. Just then came the Cushite. The Cushite said, "There is good news, my lord the king, for the Lord has avenged you this day of all those who rose against you." And the king said to the Cushite, "Is the young man Absalom safe?" So the Cushite answered, "May the enemies of my lord the king, and all who rise against you do harm, like that young man." Then the king was deeply moved, and went to the chamber over the gate, and wept. And as he wept and said thus, "O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died in your place, O Absalom, my son, my son." And Joab was told, "Behold, the king is weeping and mourning for Absalom." So the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the people. For the people heard it said that day, "The king is grieved for his son." And the people stole back into the city that day, and people were ashamed to steal away when they flee in battle. But the king covered his face, and the king cried out with a loud voice, "O my son Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son." Then Joab came into the house of the king and said, "Today you've disgraced all your servants, who today have saved your life, the lives of your sons and daughters, the lives of your wives, the lives of your concubines, and that you love your enemies and hate your friends. For you've declared today that you regard neither princes nor servants. For today I perceive that if Absalom had lived, all of us had died today, then it would have pleased you well. Now therefore arise, go out, speak comfort to your servants. For I swear by the Lord, if you do not go out, not one will stay with you in this night. And that will be worse for you than all the evil that has befallen you from your youth until now." Then the king arose and sat in the gate. And they told all the people, saying, "There's the king sitting in the gate." So all the people came before the king, for every one of Israel had fled to his tent. Now all the people were in dispute throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, "The king saved us from the hand of our enemies. He delivered us from the hand of the Philistines, and now he's fled from the land because of Absalom. But Absalom, whom we anointed over us, has died in battle. Now therefore, why do you say nothing about bringing back the king?" So David sent to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, saying, "Speak to the elders of Israel, saying, Why are you the last to bring the king back to his house? Since the words of all Israel have come to the king to this very house, you're my brethren, you're my bone and my flesh. Why then are you the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, Are you not my bone and my flesh? God so to do so to me, and more also, if you're not commander of the army before me continually in the place of Joab." So he swayed the hearts of all the men of Judah, just as the heart of one man, so that they sent his word to the king, "Return, you and all your servants." Then the king returned and came to Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal to meet the king, to escort the king across the Jordan. And Shimei, the son of Jerah, a Benjaminite, who is from Bahurim, carried and came down with the men of Judah to meet the king, King David. There was 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and his 20 servants with him, and they went over Jordan before the king. Then a ferry boat went across to carry the king's household, and to do what he thought good. Now Shimei the son of Gera fell down before the king when he crossed the Jordan. Then he said to the king, "Do not let my lord impute iniquity to me, or remember what wrong your servant did on the day that my lord the king left Jerusalem. That the king should take it to heart. For I, your servant, know that I've sinned. Therefore, here I am, the first to come today of all the house of Joseph, to go down to meet my lord the king." But Abishai the son of Zeruiah answered and said, "Shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord's anointed?" And David said, "What have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah, that you should be adversaries to me today? Shall any man be put to death today in Israel? For do I not know that today I am king over Israel?" Therefore the king said to Shimei, "You shall not die." And the king swore to him. Now Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, came down to meet the king, and he had not cared for his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his clothes from the day the king departed until the day he returned in peace. So it was, when he had come to Jerusalem to meet the king, that the king said to him, "Why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth?" And he answered, "My lord, O king, my servant deceived me, For your servant said, I will saddle a donkey for myself, that I might ride on it and go to the king, because your servant is lame. And he has slandered your servant to to my lord the king. But my lord the king is like an angel of God. Therefore do whatever is good in your eyes. For all my father's house were but dead men before my lord the king. Yet you set your servant among those to eat at your own table. Therefore, what right have I to say or to cry any more to the king? So the king said to him, Why do you speak any more of your matters? I have said, you and Ziba divide the land. Then Mephibosheth said to the king, Rather let him take it all, inasmuch as my lord the king has come back in peace to his own house. And Barzillai the Gileadite came down from Rogelim and went across the Jordan with the king to escort him across the Jordan. Now Barzillai was a very aged man, 80 years old, and he provided the king with supplies while he stayed in Mahanaim, for he was a very rich man. And the king said to Barzillai, Come across with me, and I'll provide for you while you are with me in Jerusalem. But Barzillai said to the king, How long have I to live, that I should go up with the king of Jerusalem? I'm today 80 years old. Can I discern between good and bad? Can your servant taste what I eat or what I drink? Can I hear any longer the voice of singing men and singing women? Why then should your servant be a further burden to my lord the king? Your servant will go a little while across the Jordan with the king, and why should the king repay me with such a reward? Please let your servant turn back again, that I may die in my own city, near the grave of my father and mother. And here is your servant, Chimham. Let him cross over with my lord the king, and do for him what seems good to you. And the king answered, Chimham shall cross over with me, and I will do for him what seems good to you. Now, whatever you request of me, I will do for you. Then all the people went over Jordan, and when the king had crossed over, the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his own place. Now the king went on to Gilgal, and Chimham went on with him. All the people of Judah escorted the king, and also half the people of Israel. Just then all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, Why have our brethren, the men of Judah, stolen you away and brought the king, his household, and all of David's men with them across the Jordan? So all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, Because the king is a close relative of ours. Why then are you angry over this matter? Have we ever eaten at the king's expense, or has he given us any gift? And the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, We have 10 shares in the king. Therefore, we also have more rights to David than you. Why then do you despise us? Were we not the first to advise bringing back our king? Yet the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. And there happened to be a rebel whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri, a Benjaminite, and he blew a trumpet and said, We have no share in David, nor have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tents, O Israel. So every man of Israel deserted David and followed Sheba, the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah from the Jordan as far as Jerusalem remained loyal to their king. Now David came to the house of Jerusalem, and the king took 10 women, his concubines, whom he left to keep the house, and put them in seclusion and supported them, but he didn't go into them, so they were shut up to the day of their death, living in widowhood. And the king said to Amasa, Assemble the men of Judah for me within 3 days, and be present here yourself. So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah, but he delayed longer than the set time which David had appointed him. And David said to Abishai, Now Sheba the son of Bichri will do us more harm than Absalom. Take your Lord's servants and pursue him, lest he find for himself fortified cities and escape us. So Joab's men, along with the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and the mighty men, went out after him. And they went out of Jerusalem to pursue Sheba the son of Bichri. When they were at a large stone, which is in Gibeon, Amasa came before them. Now Joab was dressed in battle armor, on his belt with a sword fastened in its sheath at his hips, and he was going forward. It fell out. Then Joab said to Amasa, Are you in health, my brother? And Joab took Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him, but Amasa did not notice the sword that was in Joab's hand. And he struck him with it in the stomach, and his entrails poured out on the ground, and he did not strike him again, thus he died. Then Joab and Abishai, his brother, pursued Sheba the son of Bichri. Meanwhile, one of Joab's men stood near Amasa and said, Whoever favors Joab and whoever favors David, follow Joab. But Amasa wallowed in his blood in the middle of the highway. And when the man saw that all the people stood still, he moved Amasa from the highway to the field and threw a garment over him. When he saw that everyone who came to him halted, when he was removed from the highway, all the people went after Joab to pursue Sheba the son of Bichri. And he went throughout all the tribes of Israel to Abel and to Beth Makkah and all the Berites. So they were together, and they went after Sheba. Then they came and besieged him in Abel of Beth Makkah, and they cast up a siege mound against the city, and it stood by the rampart. And all the people who were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. Then a wise woman cried out from the city, "Here, here, please say to Joab, come nearby, that I may speak with you." And when he has come near to hear her, the woman said, "Are you Joab?" And he answered, "I am." And then she said to him, "Hear the words of your maidservant." And he answered, "I am listening." So she spoke, saying, "They used to talk in former times, saying, they shall surely seek guidance at Abel, and they would end in disputes. They would end disputes. I am among the peaceable and faithful in Israel. You seek to destroy a city and a mother in Israel? Why would you swallow up the inheritance of the Lord?" And Joab answered her and said, far be it from me, that I should swallow up or destroy. That is not so. But a man from the mountains of Ephraim, Sheba the son of Bichri by name, has raised his hand against the king, against David. Deliver him only, and I will depart from the city. So the woman said to Joab, "Watch, his head will be thrown down to you over the wall." Then the woman, in her wisdom, went to all the people, and they cut off the head of Sheba the son of Bichri and threw it out to Joab. Then he blew a trumpet, and they withdrew from the city, every man to his own tent. So Joab returned to the king at Jerusalem. And Joab was over all the army of Israel. Benaiah the son of Jehoiada was over the Cherethites and the Pelethites. Adoram was in charge of the revenue. Jehoshaphat was the son of Eliud, was recorder. Shiva was scribe. Zadok and Abiathar were the priests. And Ira the Jerethite was as chief minister under David. So glad you joined us in our time together reading God's Word. Until the next time we meet, have a blessed day.